Erie, welcome to Mossel Bay. Give us a short synopsis of what you are doing, the attempt and why you're doing it, and just a short synopsis so we can start with.
So my attempt is to run from the east to the west coast of South Africa, literally from Mossel Bay to Alexander Bay. It was to raise funds for SADAG, and an ancillary part of it was to break the Guinness World Book of Records for the most consecutive half marathons run in consecutive days.
What interests me is on your website I read that I love that specific part that you're not a runner, you're just a normal guy that decided to do this, and that you only really started running last year. Now this is quite an attempt for somebody that's not a trained runner. Tell me a little bit about that. How did you prepare yourself? How are you managing physically and mentally?
Yeah, so when I began it, I don't think I quite knew what I was in for. Last year, a friend and I ran from Joburg to Cape Town. That was the first time I'd ever done a big running thing, in order to raise funds for Francois Pinault's Mad Leadership Foundation. There was an event called Mad to Run, and we ran it over 7 days. And I think on day 5 of that, I was exhausted, and I'd been running about 10 kilometers a day. Then in the first lockdown we had, I was so bored from baking banana bread and making pineapple beer for 3 months, and a lot of my staff were struggling. We work in the restaurant industry, and a lot of the staff were struggling in terms of payments. That a lot of them live hand to mouth, they earn a lot of tips and stuff. So I decided I wanted to do something to raise funds for my staff. So I ran the Comrades over 11.5 hours in my passageway. I just ran up and down the passageway 6,000 times. And that was really nice. We raised 110,000 Rand for the staff, and that fed 30 families or something for a month, which was like really amazing for them. Yeah. And it was during that run, I'd been thinking about doing something a bit bigger. I didn't know at that time what I wanted to do for what cause. I just knew about a guy called Terry Fox, who, if you read my website, he was a Canadian guy who suffered from cancer, and he was young and he had his leg amputated. He was so upset with the fact that there was not enough funding going into cancer research. He decided to run east coast to west coast of Canada to raise funds, and his goal was to raise 1 Rand for every Canadian citizen. And he passed away before he could, but today it's the biggest one-day fundraiser for cancer worldwide. So I didn't really know what I wanted to do it for. And then we obviously had the lockdown, and at the same time my dad got cancer, and he's fine now, but he was quite sick and he had to go in for an op, and I had a long-term relationship end, and all of it sort of came crashing down on me. And I was with my mom one day, and my dad just making lunch, and I think my dad asked me quite a simple question, like, how are you? And I just had a complete nervous breakdown. And I just cried and cried and cried, and my mom was like, go and see a psychologist. And I thought that because obviously, like we've said, mental health is sort of stigmatized, and you don't really think about it. You don't think about it in the same way that you think about something like your body. This is eventually what actually got me to go onto anti-anxiety meds. Was my psychologist, who I started seeing, said when people want to improve their bodies and themselves, they do exercise and they take supplements and they go and see people and their friends gym with them and stuff like that. She said people just don't do that for their minds at all. So I started seeing a psychologist, and when I was seeing a psychologist, I obviously started doing a bit of research on mental health and different disorders and bipolar and all of these things, because I actually thought I might have it. I was self-diagnosing a lot because I was in a bad place, and as you do, every time you see a trait or something, you're like, I must be bipolar, I must have this. And actually my psychologist was great. She diagnosed me with mild anxiety, and I ended up going on to that. But in all of that research, I started seeing that something stupid like 98% of people don't have access to proper medical health care for mental health. And 1 in 3 people globally suffer from some sort of mental health disorder. And it just made me sad, because then I started researching about NPOs and people that do things about it, and organizations, and there really aren't that many. Obviously in private healthcare there are some, but in the public space there's almost nothing. I'm very fortunate. I've got a lot of friends who are doctors who work in psychiatry in places like Tygerberg and stuff, And when you hear their stories, not only about them, not only about how they're neglected in terms of like resources, and they don't get the proper what's the word I'm looking for? They don't get the proper like support and debriefing and stuff. And the resources that they use, like the government puts the psychiatric unit underground because that's one of the ways they stop people from committing suicide. Essentially, that's where they go. So it was just really incredible to see how little funding and how few resources were going to that. And that's when I decided to do the run for SADAG.
And did you, after following your research, find that SADAG is the right partner for you in terms of being accessible to the community at large?
So what's scary is SADAG is one of the only partners. So there were 3 partners that I looked at originally. 2 of them didn't get back to me. And when I did any more research on them, that there wasn't a lot of literature on them. So actually, funny enough, how I got hold of SADAG was when I started my Back a Buddy campaign, because I'd run a Back a Buddy campaign for my original one for my staff. The guys from Back a Buddy said there was this girl whose father committed suicide, and she did a Back a Buddy thing called Project Rise, and all that funding went to SADAG. So I spoke to her and I read her story, and that's actually how I got hold of SADAG. And SADAG only came on board after I'd said I was going to donate. I started my campaign and I was like, this money's going to go to SADAG. And only about a month after that did SADAG contact me and we're like, oh, hey, that's cool. We see you're doing that. Like, how can we help? And they have been incredible.
And just in terms of, I picked up on something now. We just earlier discussed the stigmatization. I did a story recently about quite a hectic story about a cop. 2 cops from our Swellendam and Sierbrock area that's really, really rural with these really, really heinous crimes that took place there. And I spoke to the police spokesman locally that connected me with these guys. They came to Mossel Bay to be lauded by the brigadier. And he said to me that the one detective is an older man, and he in great detail described the crime. So he's quite desensitized and used to seeing what he's seen in his life. But the younger guy find it very hard to speak about the crime. And he said to me, although the resources are available in the police force, that there's a stigma, or often they get told, staffers, that should they go for debriefing, it will stand against them when they get promoted. Which is a terrible thing. Do you feel in your journey thus far that there has been an increase in a realization how important mental health is? Do you feel that it's starting a ripple, or do we need to keep advocating and sticking at it, especially now in this time?
It's such a good and difficult question to answer, because a lot of people pay a lot of lip service to it. So a lot of people come out and they're like, it's amazing what you're doing. I'd love to support and I'd love to do this. And then when you ask them to open up about it, they just clam shut again. It's weird because a lot of people are like, your story is so inspiring. And I'm sitting there, I'm like, my story is really not that crazy. Like I went through a bad time with anxiety. But I think the fact that I speak out about it is what a lot of people get inspired by. I think you're always going to have to advocate for it. I still think it's seen as something bad. It's still seen as a weakness. It's not seen as a strength to talk about it. It's seen as not being in control of your mind or being weak of mind. I was exactly the same. I fought my psychologist for 4 months before I went and got medication for it. And that story I told you about the gym and the mind, that's when eventually I went. And actually, when I ended up taking medication, I realized how it's not something you need to be on for life. It does help. It's weird because you think because you can be on chronic medication, your mind is weak, or you need to be on medication every day that your mind can't handle it. It's the complete opposite. Your mind can handle it. Your mind just needs a bit of balance and a bit of help sometimes. We exposed to so much stress every day, and I think the problem is with COVID, it's just got worse and worse and worse, and everybody just piles on top of everybody. One of the things that I've been astounded by on this journey down the coast has been the kindness of people. I'd lost hope in humanity when I was in Joburg, you know, because in COVID, everyone just went absolutely bonkers. It was fine. Everyone was happy and friendly and supporting in the first 3 months. And when we came out of that first wave, everyone went mad. And it was just every man for themselves. And so it's been really inspirational and nice to see the kind of support that we've got when we've gone through the towns. Like everyone's gone out of their way to make us welcome and run with us and meet with us and promote the cause. And again, that goes back to the point, like, it's great having that, but I think you're going to have to continuously advocate for it, because this is going to be the flavor of the month until COVID's done, and then it'll be swept under the rug again.
And even beyond. An interesting point that you just raised about the medication. I think what people sometimes lose sight of is it's not like chronic medication, but in certain cases of mental health issues, it may be chronic medication. And I wish there was a way of trying to explain to people, and that's why it's great. I'd like to get your take on the medication side, that as you would take a cholesterol pill, so to stop you from having a heart attack, that's a life-threatening disease, it's very similar with the mind. You have to sometimes support yourself. And do you think it's important to get the message across, like you just mentioned, that it's not necessarily something, it's a bridge over troubled water medication. It's not necessarily, how did you get to the point, and are you okay with the fact that you take medication?
I'm 100% okay. I don't take it anymore. I took it for about 8 months, but I'm 100% okay with it. It was exactly, my psychologist described it as just the words extrovert and introvert. If you mention the word introvert to people, it's automatically assumed to be a negative personality trait. Like, people look at introverts and they're like, oh, introverts. So she said that's medication in psychology. You just mention the word medicine and people are like, oh, they have these images of people being lobotomized, like, and kept, you know, off to the side. So it's not like that. Yes, there are people who have bad stories of medication, but on the opposite side of the coin, there are people who have incredibly good stories and who have recovered through the medication, through therapy, through the support groups. I don't think it needs to be seen as a bad thing. It just needs to be seen as something that can help. Will it help everyone? No, but it will help a lot of people. And I think people must just be open to that. Does it mean you're going to be on it for the rest of your life? No, it doesn't mean you're going to be on it for the rest of your life.
In terms of your relating to different groups of people and age groups, how do you find, we generally accept that men have greater difficulty speaking about emotional distress. Before we get to that, how do you address the youth? How's your engagement been with younger people up until now?
With younger people, it's actually been great. I think younger people understand, they understand it a bit better, and they understand that it's not such a big, scary, monolithic thing.
Open,
way more open. I've got to go and speak to the Rotary Club in Cape Town, which I'm dreading because I can't imagine that's going to be the most easy talk. So with older people, I think it's a bit more difficult, precisely because of what you were saying. They've just desensitized themselves. They're like, this is the way life is lived. Whereas I think young people are more open to the fact that life doesn't have to be lived this way. You can communicate a bit better. You can get the support. You can seek help.
And also they have the freedom of social media, where they can express themselves and can say that I'm feeling down today, etc., etc. Are you doing in the course of this a little bit of awareness of the dangers of exposing yourself on social media, or that there could be that cyberbullying can add to emotional distress, or is that not really a field?
I would love it to be. So I'm doing my social media. I absolutely abhor social media. It drains me. You can ask Dana. Every night when I have to do my post, I absolutely hate it, because it portrays the world what you want it to portray, and people can clap back hard and read back, and there are no consequences. So it is a big thing. When I speak to people about social media, it is a big thing. It's difficult because I'm not an advocate for cyberbullying, because obviously I didn't live through the era where you could be cyberbullied.
It's a bit foreign to us.
Yeah, it is a bit foreign to us. But I mean, when you see some of the things that happen to kids, it's horrible what happens. Like you said, with those kids who couldn't get their new clothes, I'm sure a lot of that was peer pressure or kids their own age. So it does have a place. You know, my campaign is just about the awareness, whatever that awareness, you know, takes shape, how it takes shape, that's up to the people who want to deal with it. But SADAG, literally, when you walk into their office, have a bookshelf with about 200 boxes of information booklets, and it's got things: cyberbullying, suicide, anxiety, matric exams. So they deal with all of that. And I think that
would be available to the public.
That's available to the public,
get somebody to distribute those. Ideally speaking, once your journey is finished, what would you like to continue in the places where you visit? What would you want to see?
I just think it's about keeping the awareness up. Like, I'm no one special, I'm not a public figure, I don't plan on being a public figure after this. I want to go back to living like my normal life. But if my goal has always been, if I can change one person's life with this journey, then this journey has been worthwhile. So even if all it does is lets people talk for 2 months afterwards about what a cool experience it was, we met this guy, it was important, and it starts a conversation. Even if in those 2 months afterwards it helps one person, or somebody doesn't end their life because they know SADAG have toll-free helplines available, like that to me is worthwhile.
Yeah, even just to leave a number behind that people don't feel as alone. And men, that's the big question. How do we do men? I think they're under such pressure in our country. I sometimes, I might dread saying this, but I think gender-based violence isn't doing us any favors. It seems like the divide is getting bigger, the pressure's getting more. Unemployment is a big issue. The breaking down of relationships, marriages is an issue. How can we reach, what can we do for our men? Being a man yourself, help us. Give us some pointers. How do we reach them?
That's so a lot of the psychologists I've spoken to, they talk about things like alcoholism, like drug abuse, gender-based violence, and they say that those are all symptoms of mental health problems. So when people are anxious or depressed or feeling pressure, that's an outlet for them, right? Because it's cheap, it's easily available, and it solves the problem there and now. It's a tough question to ask about me. It's asking a man to open up is like trying to draw blood from a stone. But I think the more people see it being acceptable to open up, and the more people see people opening up, then the more society will accept and change and shift. It's not something that will happen overnight, and I think that's the important thing. Is it's just got to keep. It's just a small step, and you've just got to keep chipping away until it becomes acceptable.
Don't give up hope.
Yeah, don't give up hope. Sorry.
Hopefully it's a donation from the
and I think telling people, like, let's say you don't want to talk to somebody directly available to you, because a lot of people find it difficult to open up to the people close to them for fear of being judged. I think when you read about the type of stuff that SADAG does in terms of they've got their toll-free helplines, it's all anonymous. They are trained counselors, and they will speak to you for as long as you need to be spoken to. That the work they do is like instrumental in getting that mind shift to change. And I think that's the thing you need to do, is like, cool, if you don't want to speak to me, you don't have to speak to me, but here's somebody, you can speak to somebody.
Yes.
And that was a big thing for me. When I started speaking to my psychologist, you go in quite like defensive, because you think you're going to be judged. And they just talk you through thought processes and how to help yourself. It's not a judgmental space. It's a space where you can just express how you feel.
And realize that a lot of the barriers and a lot of the judgment you've set up yourself. Because 100%. That's often how you would look at people. So how can people become involved?
With me or SADAG
with this specific project?
My goal was to raise 4 million for SADAG. People can donate on my website. I understand that people don't have resources to donate all the time. So for me, a big thing is also just getting the word out there, sharing my posts. I'm trying to get it out into as many places as possible. So it's just about sharing the information that's out there and sharing the story. And I think then people can decide. Yes, of course, I'd love for people to donate to me, but if they can't, if all they do is share SADAG's number to their friends and family and what SADAG do, then that's enough for me.
So it's a multi-pronged investment that people can
Yeah.
make.
Yeah.
But Anna, please tell me about your involvement with the Soul Project. Because it seems like you haven't been spared some of the blood, sweat and tears either.
So I was actually also meant to be on that mad to run that he had really did from Joburg to Cape Town. And that's when I first met him. And then at the beginning of this year, a friend of mine told me about the campaign that he was wanting to do. And to mental health has always been a very important thing. I've gone through quite a few things in my life and a lot of stigma has been attached to me. And it's been the big thing that I've had to overcome. And when I heard what Henry was doing, I contacted him and I said, I'd like to meet you for coffee and hear a little bit more about this campaign and see if there was anything that I could do to get involved or help him with. And we actually ended up dating. So before this whole thing started, he had a whole lot of people because he had to, with the Guinness World Record, have people run with him on every run to be a witness. And then the third wave of lockdown happened in Johannesburg, so we had to get out of Joburg down to KwaZulu-Natal as quickly as we could. And all the runners that were meant to join him weren't able to get out of Joburg, and then the riots came. So without much training, I had to start running. So
Oh my goodness, thrown at the deep end.
Yeah.
So I did the first 26 runs with him, and we were in KwaZulu-Natal together. And then I came home for a month, or I went back to Joburg for a month, and then I joined him again about 3 weeks ago. So
How
just supporting him.
How has the journey been for you, emotionally and mentally thus far?
So I take my hat off to him. So I struggle to get out of bed and join him on the runs, but I kind of feel like I can't say that I'm feeling tired or sore when I see what he has to get up and deal with on a daily basis. There's a lot that goes into it, and he's incredibly strong mentally, and I mean I feel his pain. Like there are some days that you're feeling down and you stress about other things, and the world's also caving in on you, but he's got a lot of people looking up to him and a lot of attention on him, and it's hard work. But as I said, I'm supporting him in what he's doing, which is a much bigger thing. I don't know if that particularly answers your question.
No, it does. What I actually want to ask both of you is, do you find in people connecting with you on the journey that there are people that are happy that you carrying this banner, that they would have been out there with you telling their stories, but they're happy that you guys are doing it, that I don't have to? Have you had that feeling?
I'll answer this from my point of view. Is one of the things that I've realized on this is how much I've gone through and what I've dealt with, and I've always thought, I want to speak about it, I want people to know about it, but I've never been brave enough. And seeing Henry doing what he's done, like on a daily basis, I'm like, I think it's incredible because it actually shows you that just one person can get out and do what he's doing, and it helps the rest of us all feel a little bit braver to go, cool, this is actually what we're going through. And that's what you'll see on a lot of the runs, is that people come and they'll run with us, and then they'll end up telling us their story, or about a relative that they've had that has committed suicide, or what they're going through with their wife. And it definitely has created a channel for people to actually be a little bit braver and be able to speak up about what they're going through. And the biggest thing that I keep saying to him is one person can really make a difference.
Yeah, Henry, you started off in Mossel Bay
Yeah.
in August.
Yes. No, July.
July
Yeah.
last year, or this year.
This year.
So luckily you haven't been running too much. Okay, you're gonna run 133 half marathons in 133 days, 2,800 kilometers.
Yeah.
You started off in Mossel Bay. You're in Mossel Bay now. What did you see on the way? What was the most interesting towns so far? And maybe the highlights. of the running so far?
So I think I better say Mossel Bay is the most interesting. It's been so interesting. The different parts of the country are so diverse in terms of like fauna and flora and people. Each little place that we've been to has had its own unique like charm about it. The south coast, when we went into like the Oroby Gorge, was amazing. We went into the Oroby Gorge swing. These are all places I've never been to in South Africa. I've lived here for 35 years. In Cozy Bay, I mean, we learned there's a 60 square kilometer forest there, and it's got more bird life in that forest than the whole of the Kruger National Park. You just learn these incredible facts. We went, everywhere we go. The Transkei was the most beautiful running that I've done. It's just this rural, untouched, beautiful landscape. We ran all the way up. I mean, we ran the cliffs at Morgan's Bay, and we ran Hugga Hugga, and we ran the whole Sinsa Beach. You just don't find beaches or forests or anything like that anywhere else in the world in one country. You literally go from this desolate, like half desert up in the north coast, like up by the border, the sand, and all the way down you find the forests in KwaZulu-Natal, those like jungles. And then the Eastern Cape has its own. I mean, we went to Hog's Back, and there's 800-year-old yellowwood trees, and the beaches, like I said, in Sinsa. In this garden route has just been the most incredible place for us. So we did the Tsitsikamma River mouth, we did the gorge there, we did the Blowkrans bungee jump, that was amazing. And in each of these places we've gone down to random little towns that I probably wouldn't have known exist. You're driving and all you see is a little sign that says like Buffelsbaai left, and we ran to Buffelsbaai one day. What an incredible town. It's got all these surfboard benches and the bus stops are all painted, and you can just see people take pride in their towns, and they're very welcoming. And that's to me been one of the coolest things. Is like every town we've gone into, when people find out about us, they're just so welcoming. It's like they invite us for a meal, or they just want to give us a coffee, and that's what I've loved, because I really had lost hope in humanity up in Joburg a bit. And it's been incredible. We went in knysna, we got invited by the NSRI to go out on a training run with them. So we got to go out with them for one night. And they're exactly the same. They're an entirely volunteer-based organization, and they give back to their community because they love their community and they're passionate about it. And that's what's been like so amazing to see. So the Tsitsikamma area, fantastic. The entire Transkei, incredible. The south coast was fantastic as well, like just the little places we went to, Cozy Bay, and I'm looking forward now to getting into the Overberg area with like all the little bays and stuff.
So the whole journey so far is actually, you can say, mental medicine. For your mental health, you actually healed by going places, seeing people, talking to people.
Yeah, absolutely. And just seeing how life actually doesn't have to be like it is in Joburg. I'm sorry to say it, but life in Joburg is quote me on that. It is. It's like all just focused on like money and lifestyle and stuff. And then you come down to the coast and you realize there are these amazing beaches, and people just live easily and they walk and they don't worry too much about crime, especially in this area. The guy we spoke to from the Knysna Running Club, who's a policeman, he doesn't even carry a gun on him. I mean, where in South Africa have you heard of policemen not carrying guns? It feels like it's in a different country, but it is. It's in the same part of the world, and that's what I loved about it.
Yeah, but physically it took a little bit of you, né?
The run.
Yeah.
It's taken 14 kilograms of me.
And aches and pains and.
Yeah, I've been through aches and pains. I fell badly in Grahamstown, and like I'm still nursing, but like a slightly cracked rib, but you can't do anything about it. I've lost all my toenails. I had bad ITB syndrome in the south coast, and I had to get a physio to massage it out, and my whole leg was just black after that. But it worked. I mean, there was a stage where I thought I was going to have to walk every 21. I was walking 8 or 9 k's per run. But your body's an amazing tool, and it just adjusts. So, yeah.
Yeah, and your end goal is 2,800 kilometers, which is going to be a record. But I believe you already broke a record.
So the official Guinness record is 75 runs. So we ran
Fine.
past for men. So the women's is 103. So we ran past the official record in Sedgefield. And then my next call is obviously 103 because it's also held by a South African lady called Sharon Jessup up in Port Elizabeth. So my big goal was to overtake her. She's incredible. She ran 6 rounds with me. She's just spunky and full of life, and she's behind me the whole way. So to me that was like the big one because I didn't feel like 75, especially in the South African context. Maybe somebody from another country would be like 75's okay, but I was like, no, South Africans, we gotta get a bit competitive. So my big goal is obviously 103 and then the 133 after that.
For sure. And another question is, how does a daily activities consist of? You don't run from town to town.
No.
You basically go to a town, run around, see all the places. Is that the way you do it?
That's pretty much it. We wake up.
Some days we see all the places, other days we finish
We
the run,
sleep.
eat and
Sleep.
lie on the couch
Yeah.
all day. So it depends on energy levels.
Yeah, you'll see every about 10 or 12 days our bodies just take a hit. So every like 10 days we try and just sleep. We try and sleep that extra few 4 or 5 hours because your body, I mean, it's undertaking a lot of. So I think we worked out the energy consumption that we can take in every day, that I can take in every day. It's 8 Big Mac meals. Like, and if I eat 8 Big Mac meals, okay, I mean, I'll obviously change my body shape a bit, but I'm expending that much energy. So your body needs a lot to recover.
Yes, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, we can mostly.
Okay,
Good
let's
luck.
take off.
Thank you guys. Thank you.
It's a long way. It's still a long way to run. From here you're going to
Still by.
Stillbar.
Yeah.
And then obviously off to Cape Town and then up the coast.
Off the coast. Yeah.
So good luck.